Okay.
We're ready.
If we're ready, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome everybody this afternoon. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the territory of the Sea Shelf First Nation. And I'd also like to say that we're beginning our journey towards more public transparency and audio availability. So this meeting will be recorded with audio. And when the meeting is over, it'll be made available through a link on the SCRD website. So for directors, I would encourage you to use your microphone and speak close to the mic so it's all recorded well. But just so that everyone in the gallery knows as well, should there be times. But it is going to be audio recorded. We usually record them for purposes just of minutes and clarification, but they're actually recorded now for upload for public use. And eventually we'll add video, just like the real world out there. But this is a good start. Motion to adopt the agenda. We have an amended agenda with item 4A added from this morning. Any other amendments before we get going? So a motion to adopt the agenda is amended. Thank you, and seconded. That's all those in favor? None opposed, so that's carried. And we can move straight to our regular board meetings of September 27th, 2018. Motion to receive and adopt the minutes of September 27th. Thank you. Seconded. Are there any errors or omissions in those minutes that people saw, pages 1 to 12? If there's no errors or omissions, I'll ask all in favor of adoption raise their hands. Any opposed? That's carried. And is there any business arising from those minutes? Seeing no business arising, I'll move on to item 3, which is our delegation. We're pleased to have David Chisholm with us today, without his usual sidekick, Celia, but that's fine. And this is an opportunity for a little bit of direct and in-person interaction on the Scredo mid-year progress update. Sunshine Coast Regional Economic Development Organization. We did receive the report a couple of weeks ago, but we're really glad to have you here today to explain a few more things, and we'll move ourselves out of the line of this light. Well, it's the light's right on this. Okay. Oh, that's very good. I thought I was at the all candidates meeting tonight already, and they're just shining bright lights looking for transparency. Oh, it's not on yet. You have to push the part on the bottom.
On this one, the one with the big sticker. Right, Chair and Board, thank you for inviting us in to talk about all the stuff we're doing. We have been getting that message from a number of sources lately that the feeling is that we haven't been letting the world know all the things that we're doing. Part of that is the nature of how we've been doing things, which is in a deeply collaborative way. So we often don't want to get ahead of our partners by, while we're negotiating what a project is going to look like, suddenly announcing to the world that the project is done. So sometimes it's hard. We also have an obligation to let all of our funders know the announcements we're going to make, before we make them. And I know with your reading list, we have to get that in as soon as possible. I just sent one last week for the remainder of the year with 10 announcements that we're going to be making over the next 2 months or so. So hopefully you'll have a chance to see that before. So I thought what I would do today is do a quick overview of all of our projects by way of our website, where all that information is located, and then be available to answer questions. I think going through some of the stuff on our website will answer some of the questions that we got secondhand through the media and others. But we'll do that. Okay. So now she's live. So it's important to note that this is what we call our corporate site. It's not our business attraction site. It's not our workforce attraction site. It's not any other projects. It's just about our incorporation and to speak to you and to the public about what we do. It has all the usual that you would expect. It's also had our address at the bottom, mailing in postal for well over a year now. We secured an address about a month after incorporating. One of the most important sections of the site is our documents. So from a month after we incorporated, this page has started. It has all of our founding documents, all of our strategic plans, all of our annual plans, all of our annual reports, and all of mid-year reports that we file with you immediately get posted for the public. In addition, all of our key policies are available to the public and as they're written. We are starting to maintain a library of economic development reports and studies that have been done over the years that we will add to, so that there's one place on the coast that you can find them. So that's probably the key page on our transparency mission. We also have press releases that we've written, and whenever we are mentioned in the media. So in the life of the organization, we've had, whatever that is, a dozen or more mentions. Oh, even more. So that's not exactly, we haven't been living in a cave for the last year or so. There's been lots of mentions. For our programs, as you've noticed from our mid-year report and our plans, we have 4 main program areas: business retention expansion, workforce development, resources and infrastructure, and community. And in each one of these pages, as a project goes live, launched, or feel free to talk about, we add it to this page. We've taken a little liberty of updating this with projects that, given the calls to be more outspoken, we've updated it with some of the stuff that's being worked on, but not yet launched. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a separate investor website that is an information-dense website, and we've received feedback from businesses about how pleasant they found it to use, to find everything they needed all in one place. And it's because it's separate from being a marketing site. It's just the information site. The other big project that we've had over the last year is our Business Roundup program. So this is how we do business retention and expansion on the coast. We partnered with 3 chambers of commerce, and it's paid. This year, we just finished our first program year of it, and we think that it's been a very good success. We have a common database of 1,600 businesses in it. We've conducted 140 in-person interviews with business owners, finding out what's inhibiting their growth. We've sponsored over a dozen business meetups and networking events. And overall, when I look at the project and I think of the money we spent on it, and if we had just hired somebody direct to go do these things, we would have not got a fraction of it done. So that, on that account, I think it's been a very successful project. The other thing is that's only those the things that we've accomplished so far are only half the story. The main story is building the culture of Team Sunshine Coast. Scredo, all the chambers, SDVA, Sunshine Coast Tourism, we're all Team Sunshine Coast, and working together on as many projects as we can so that we're in alignment. That's a real big benefit, and this project's been very helpful with that. Fuse Community Work Hub, we purchased the assets, furniture, and intellectual property of the Fuse Work Hub in Gibsons before the summer, and we've been growing ever since, and we're growing out of space. So when we bought it, the plan was to take it regional, and we're working on that plan now. We've been growing in Gibsons, so we're looking at a larger facility. We're looking for places in Seashelt, and we have a plan for Pender Harbor. I'm not going to go into a lot of the individual details, but just letting you know, we bought that work hub with a plan to expand, and we are. And it's been quite successful. We're able to expand the mandate. Oh, hey, look, a partner. So these together are our business retention and expansion projects to date. And we've been staffed up since March, so we feel pretty confident in what we got done there. Workforce development, BRE and workforce development, those two together are 70% of our work. So last year we brought together 40 HR and large employers on the coast into a round table. Just going around the room and introducing who they were, what their program was, and what their current challenges were was really helpful, because every year these programs undergo staff changes and board changes, and not everybody knows everybody and what everybody does. So just spending a lunchtime doing that was valuable. But in addition, we pulled out a lot of, started making a lot of partners, and we've been working on with Open Door Group and Praxis and others working on specific projects. We have another one scheduled now for November 15th, and we'll be presenting back to that group the projects that we did that resulted out of last year's meetup. And there are things like our Advantage Service and Leadership Program. So this is a joint venture agreement between Sunshine Coast Tourism and Scredo. It's, how to describe it in a nutshell, it's a customer service and leadership program. Think of the Justice Institute in New Westminster, and people from all over the province go there because that's where you go for those courses. We want to build that same thing here, starting from the ground up. So we don't offer any training directly. We offer a program, a values-based program. We certify existing trainers into it, and then we play market maker. So we convince the businesses that there's a return on investment for investing in service skills, investing in leadership skills, and then we turn around to the trainer community and encourage them to be flexible and provide training in a manner that the businesses want it. So that's that program. Victory Suites, as many of you have probably seen recently on YouTube. Victory Suites, when we were brainstorming one day what to do about the biggest issue for us in workforce development is housing, and we're not in the building business, so we thought we heard from some realtors that there was a lot of houses bought and sold with finished suites in them that are empty, that the fixed income, the high fixed income, they don't need to rent it, and it seems like a hassle to them. So we thought, well, if we have an information campaign to free up the existing stock that's already in the community. And that's actually huge, the amount of suites that are available to be rented that just aren't. I've got all sorts of anecdotes to share with you on that sometime. So that program, again, it's a $1,200 program to date, and we have a new ad coming out hopefully at the end of October, where we'll be showcasing some of the short-term rentals that have converted to long-term rentals to call themselves a Victory Suite based on being convinced that it's a good idea. We're also partnering with SD46 on a youth employment project. This was piloted by teacher Michelle McLeod in Elphinstone, and Bob Hoy from IGA, where he went and met the grade 9 students in the class and to talk to them about what work means to them, and how he recognized that he had some problems with his younger staff, and that's where he has to go to get staff. So it was incumbent on him to find out where they were coming from and how to work with them. So he went into the classroom. The program turned into being a classroom session. All the students worked a 2 or 4 hour shift in the store in different departments, and then they did a self-assessment, and they compared that with their supervisor's assessment. And it was a fantastic program for everybody involved. And so when I heard about it, I said, Bob, let us take it really. So we've been working with SD46 on that. I'm meeting with Paul and Kathy Gordon to sign the agreements up. It was supposed to be yesterday, and now it's going to be next Wednesday. And then Youth Entrepreneur Studies, again, that's another small project, but there's an existing national program for, it's just sort of a curriculum package where the students form a team, we lend them money, they start a business, they pay back the money and donate any profits to charity. And there's a curriculum to go with it. So we're partnering with them on that. Resources and infrastructure is our smallest one at this point, just out of the necessity that we've been working on getting those other big projects going this year. We did the herring habitat one, which we hear so much about, on people asking why we did it. And so when we were initially made a board and we didn't have any money, we didn't have any incorporation, we didn't have a service plan, we didn't have anything, we talked about what kind of things could we do. And some local business owners had brought this to one of the chambers. There were some charter businesses, and they said, "Look, they did this up in Whistler or Squamish, and it's been a fantastic program. It should be done here." So I thought, well, working with partnership with the Rotary clubs, it was a low cost, didn't need staff, didn't need anything to get it going, just needed to talk to some local clubs, and it's been a successful project so far. We'll see how it goes, except for typos. And, of course, recently we worked on the Sunshine Coast Passenger Ferry needs assessment. So the Coast Calendar Network, this is a regional calendar. This project is super popular with everybody that we talk to about it, whether they're people who have a calendar or they're B&B operators or restaurants or anybody. Everybody wants one place to go to see all the events on the coast. So we're still just a little bit pre-launch, but it's ready to go any day. So this, I won't get into the technicals of it, but it aggregates all the existing calendars together. When you go to see a calendar online, you can hit the subscribe button and it adds the calendar to your calendar. Well, we just do that to all the calendars into one central place, import them into those categories, and then it's available for anybody else to put on their website. So it's not that this website is the regional calendar. It's this regional calendar can be put on any website. Just like you would embed a YouTube video, you just copy and paste the stuff, exactly the same. So right now we're at, like I said, about 24 more calendars incorporated, and that will be doubling once we launch. And this has a 3-year, it was a $15,000 project the first year for the contractor to go and, face-to-face explain what's going on, and it's technical, so it takes a little time to get everybody on board with how to actually participate. But within 3 years, we think it's going to fund itself when it is the calendar on the coast to go to with everything in it. Selling the featured events on the top will pay for the contractor to do maintenance. Let's do this. Doesn't want to go back. I'll go around. So this will be before Christmas. This will be launched. We're just waiting to coordinate with some updates happening with the Coast Cultural Alliance as a website. Sports and recreation inventory. This is something we've just started now. It's for a lot of our community and business sectors. We have umbrella organizations, whether it's the Trail Society or Coast Cultural Alliance or others. But there's been nothing for the sports and rec sector. It's all the youth and adult team-based sports, solo sports, walking groups, riding groups. There's no list of all these things. And we think it's important to the coast for 2 reasons. One, sports and recreation is an industry in itself, so we should understand it. But also, when people move to the Sunshine, when people bring their businesses to the Sunshine Coast, they're not bringing the businesses here for the business environment. They're bringing the businesses here for the personal community environment. That's been my experience over the last 12 years. Every single new business owner I've met who's come to the coast, and I say, why did you move to the coast, or why did you bring your business to the coast? And they all said, we used to visit here a lot as kids. We've been visiting friends here a lot. We come here for our honeymoons, whatever. Like they come here for visits, and then they want to be here all the time. And it's because of the place and the people. So I just got a call the other day, a wrong number. A woman was looking for the Softball Association, so of course doing what I do, I asked her, why are you looking for that? And they're looking to relocate to the coast. They're both working professionals at home, but they wanted to know if there was what the level of softball was on the coast, because their daughter was into that, and if there wasn't anything, then they didn't want to come here. That was their decider. Right? So these are important things for the economic development. Some of you will be familiar with the Voice on the Coast project that was run a few years ago, and we're working with them to reimagine it and relaunch it more along the lines of City Studio, which is a program in Vancouver. And very briefly, in Vancouver, what the program is in Vancouver is that they take the city comes down to City Studio and says, here's some problems we're working on. We want to allow people to have chickens or something, but we don't know how or whatever. We want some unique ideas. And so then that studio takes students from SFU and UBC from different studies and moderates them through working as a group to come up with ideas and project them forward into actuality. And when I went to visit them to see, we went and visited a lot of different places in the city, and these guys, their tables and chairs and a moderator, they get their money from the secondary education, but we're going to do it here on the coast with a volunteer or honorarium moderator, and we have rooms for people to sit in. So we're forming a Voice on the Coast committee, 19 to 34-year-olds, with a mission of developing projects that will make the coast a better place to live for their demographic. And then they will pitch those projects to us, which we put through our normal approval process. And if it gets approved, it's just another project that's come on board. But I have a lot to say about this in general, about the fact that, economic development is governance development. And running a project like that brings our young people that stay on the coast after graduation, it gives them a place to go. If they're in the leadership classes in the school and in those leadership organizations, and then half their friends, they graduate out, half their friends go to Vancouver, and there's nothing for them to get it. There's no way for them to continue on doing that work. And so we're trying to give them a step into that here. And then this is the coast. So you'll be familiar with this is the coast from the past. It's we were right in the middle of working on making this more of an active worker attraction portal that we can advertise off coast. And that involves working with all of our partners from the HR Alliance to make sure that all aspects of the community are not just that we're pushing the information out there, not just that we're passively waiting for contact. So we want to make it a little bit more of an active worker attractor. And that covers all of our main program areas. We have some vacancies on our board right now. We are waiting for the elections to be over, and then we're going to advertise for directors. I think that covers it. I went through this stuff initially really early. Did you have anything to add?
Nope, I'll wait for questions.
Yeah, questions are good.
And my apologies for
Sure.
being late. There's a nice traffic tie-up out there on the highway right now. Getting to Seashell takes a long time right now.
Yeah.
Getting through Seashell. Getting to Seashell.
Getting to Seashell. Yeah.
Isn't that an economic development problem?
There's a definite highways bottleneck happening in the middle of Selma Park.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We will look for committee questions and things, but if I could start it off, you wanted to take us through your website, so I walked over and picked up my device, and when I type in scredo.ca, it does bring me, Google actually brings it over and then says there's no information for this page. I was going to actually ignore that, but I clicked on it and it did get to your home site. And then I tried Sunshine Coast Economic Development. You're nowhere. And I tried another one, another variation of Sunshine Coast Economic. Nowhere. So still a little hard to find, but I'm glad you gave us Scredo, so at least we all know now we can go to scredo.ca to get that. So board members and directors who may have questions. You certainly had some 2 weeks ago, so I'm sure there's still some now. Who would like to start? Thank you. Director Morrow from Pender Harbour.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation and on the website. It's all very informative, and I think that even during the looking over your report, we do see that you're very enthusiastic and providing a lot of data as far as getting information, amalgamating information, and some social type participation, particularly some student development. One of the criticisms that I had about the report, and I intend this to be a constructive criticism, is I think we identified in the charter that key performance indicators are important. And to my mind, and maybe this is a question, Mr. Chair, for the delegation, key performance indicators in my mind are numbers that relate to the key performance indicators that you identify. And I didn't have to look very far, and I look at your executive summary and your report, and there's 3 main bullet points. And I see increase the number of growing businesses, increase the number of quality career opportunities, and reduce economic disparity. All of those are easily measured with real numbers. And that's the kind of thing that maybe you could, the question is, when would we be expecting to see some numbers in that regard? If I one more second, Mr. Chair, in the context of one of the main reasons I think that the partners, the local governments got together, is to create an entity that could respond quickly and to respond to the needs of the coast. So in those terms, I guess what I'm saying is, when can we expect to see those kinds of numbers?
Thank you for the question, and to the delegation.
Yeah, thanks. It is every project that we've approved. In order to be approved, the project plan has to specify exactly what KPIs that project is measuring. So we know where all the numbers are coming from. We have to do the work to work with our partners to make sure the numbers they're collecting on our behalf are flowing through to us and flowing through to our board meetings so that we have a better management accounting. Like right now, when we have our financials, every project's budget, actual where we are, but we want that column next to it because for us it's expenses and revenues, but for us it's expenses and KPIs, and so we want those KPIs right in those budget documents at every board meeting. So we've recognized that we've been falling down on that. So every project, we know where the KPIs are coming from. We have to do a better job of having our worker collect them and format them into our accounting. So it's all there. It's just a matter of collecting it. I don't know if you have something to add.
It's all there, but it's in a development stage, right? So we know we need to have visual representation of our KPIs just for us in governing each project, let alone the big three that you named. And so we're working on a way that facilitates a dashboard. So you see, here's what this one's doing, and yes, things are clicking, and I need to pay attention to this. Expand the number of growing businesses. Step one, count how many businesses there are. Which ones of them are growing? Which ones want to grow? What are their bottlenecks? That's all part of the business retention and expansion program. That's part of the survey. That's part of the collection. So we're to the point of KPIs going up for how many are there and how many more do we need to reach. How many of that group have said they want to grow, which was actually,
it's quite a high
I'm trying to
number.
remember data. It's a good number.
I think it's the way we answer the question.
It's a bigger question than I can put out numbers for in 2 weeks, right? It's a long time to get to the right answer, but we know that's a goal and it's coming.
In regards,
it just takes time.
In regards to the moving quickly, for some projects we definitely have, I think, but say around an issue like housing, it's a huge issue, and we brainstormed heavily and decided what could we do that we could do today, right now, and that Victory Suites project was fast and affordable, and so far it's modest successes, but we've had some successes. We're working on a new YouTube ad that'll be interviewing, I already said that, some of the people that have converted their suites. So that's an example of...
because it's one thing to approve a new development and a new apartment complex is going to go up, right? That's
2 years.
Might be 2 years to get through the approval process and then 2 years to actually construct. Whereas if 100 residents on the coast would open up a new suite that wasn't being rented, 100 new units of housing that didn't require any construction is really fast. That's way faster than anything else through the construction phase. That's where we were hoping to make a dent. And 100 new rental units would be a huge win into the tight inventory.
And you want to mention a bit about having a development schedule? What we were talking about last night? A schedule of upcoming developments.
So there are housing projects being approved at the District of Sechelt. There are housing projects being approved in Gibsons. There are housing projects being approved at this table. There's no list of them all or where they stand. So if you're a person looking to move here, or you're a person looking to buy a new thing, and so you've heard about such and such, and that might be interesting, but how do you track? Where's it at? Is it waiting on its development permit? Has it been approved? Is it in construction? When does it expect to market? There's no list of that on the coast. And so we've seen that as an area that just consolidating information into one place, bringing things out of 3-4 separate governments and putting it into place is a benefit that doesn't, it takes time and effort to set up, but it's not a high dollar costing thing to do.
Yeah.
So that's on the target list of knowing that things are being approved. That would be helpful information to someone trying to build a life here.
Interesting questions. Director Knorr and then Director Wynn.
Thank you for going ahead and working on this. One of the first things I noticed. Oh, yes, thank you. One of the first things I noticed that you did put together the Half Moon Bay Community School as part of your program. I'm just thinking as you're talking about stats, she's always got stats. She reads them out to me every time I see her, so there's a quick grasp. The other thing that's concerned me, I don't know, and you could tell me how it's coming along, is making sure that you have people on your committee from all over the coast. One of the things that some people have mentioned to me is a concern that concentrates on the south end. Is that true or is it not true? And could you tell me how you're doing about spreading the work?
Up until a couple of weeks ago, we've always had a director from Pender Harbor. I'm not sure what happened off the top of my head. There was Pender Harbor, or Half Moon Bay and Sechelt, West Sechelt, in my mind, where people live. It gets muddy for me. But we strive to maintain the original diversity that our funders set up for us, which is not just geographic but also socioeconomic and experience. So we have a ramp of along all of those dimensions. But we're committed to regional diversity on the board. Mm-hmm. That's it. We have an advising member group as well, and by loading it up, we were able to offset. So, like we have advising members from Half Moon Bay, even if we don't have a director that lives in Half Moon Bay right now. That's about that for that. For the on the community school, it is kind of a funny partnership in the way that the Business Roundup project started with just the 3 chambers of commerce because they are so aligned in their mission and the processes. But there was a lot of interest from the SEBA, from the Roberts Creek Community Association's Business Improvement Committee, and from Wendy Pearson and the community school, because she's been doing that work for a long time. So they've now all rolled into the program. So we had a large program launch in June where all were represented, and they're on board right now. So it's been great. And it is. That's how we are going to be able to leverage getting a lot more business coaches and business ears and eyes on the ground, so that when a business is having troubles, we're going to find out about it sooner, because they're talking to somebody who's on Team Sunshine Coast, so it'll land on our desk.
Sorry, thank you for that. And Director Wynne and then Director LaBelle.
Thank you, Chair Milne, and thank you, delegation. There was a few questions in my mind from when we first saw the report a couple of weeks ago. One was that representation from different parts of the coast and regional in nature, and especially for the industrial areas in Area F. Over 1,000 employees and many companies, and an upcoming initiative to have a hard look at Hillside Industrial Park and see what can be done there to increase the economic benefits of that. So that it's important that it's regional, and that a real good effort goes into. And I understand the complexities of getting business people to sign up to be on committees, but nonetheless, I see that as a good economic driver, a primary economic driver on the coast, is that industrial corridor. So to get people from that, I have another question, if I could. Thank you. So the KPIs, and Director Morrow raised the question, and you've spoken to them. To me, they are they're soft in nature. You can say there'll be this many more businesses. Each of the programs and the projects are good. They're moving forward, and I've complimented the organization in the past, and I'll do it again, on being able to move forward with those programs and projects. But ultimately, I think it's important to see a hard number, and that hard number is dollars. So can you equate your KPIs to a dollar return on investment of over $300 or just about $300,000 from local government? can you equate your KPIs to what is the return on investment in a hard number like dollars? Where I'm going is, show me the money.
So to take that last one first, economic development is notorious for being very hard to say a dollar spent there resulted in a job there, for the most part. If we were the type of economic development agency that was, in-house and had an office across the hall from the planner, and you had 100 acres of industrial land, we could probably do that kind of direct accounting. I don't think the way that we're set up, we can have exactly that how to measure that. I think we have to do it on a larger scale. We go back to say, in our workforce development, and one of our strategic goals is to increase the number of quality career opportunities on the coast. In our strategic plan, it says that one of the ways that we're going to do that is we're going to increase the number of businesses investing in training. Our Advantage Service and Leadership program is exactly that. It's a program designed to increase the number of people training. So from our highest level mission goals to our strategic plan goals to our project, there's full alignment in our KPIs. We will be able to measure how many businesses we put through our training program. So we'll be able to drill all the way down. So I don't know if we're going to be able to say dollar for dollar how that goes, because the measure that the process that I like best for doing that is to create a called synthetic control group. So take Powell River, Comox, and Ladysmith, or whatever, 3 comparable communities, and average their growth and change in their community, and compare that to us. Right? Can't compare one-to-one communities, too many variables, too many between everything else. But if we take that way, we could probably get the closest. And so we have been doing some work on looking into how to do that. Sorry if that was a little bit of a rambly answer.
And I also think part of your question is you want to see return on investment. We don't want to be doing this unless there's a return on our investment. But I also think you realize that this is not a flash-in-the-pan type of program, and that all of these things take significant time and investment. And we're at the end of year 1 of actual dollar investment. So I don't think you expected to see a $300,000 investment and to see a $300,000 return in year 1. So to me, that's something about, yes, you've got to keep those things front and center and make sure that as you're building and moving along and as we change people in the organization, that you continue with that mindset of trying to know your return on your investment and that you actually are moving your performance indicators in the right direction.
Thank you for those responses. And Director Lavelle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I am going to build towards a question along the lines of the challenges that you have faced in terms of dealing with 4 different funders. But just some comments first. Thanks for coming. And as you probably picked up, there were some thoughts around the report that came to us a couple of weeks ago. I think the approach of helping us through the website here is really helpful, and it builds transparency for the public as well. My impression is that what you're developing here is a very strong piece of connective tissue on our coast, and although there are parts of this that benefit that area and parts, and maybe this program is more relevant to here that has more young people or more industrial or I think it's important to focus ourselves on part of the reasons for setting up an organization that can respond across boundaries quickly. That you've managed to, my sense as a part of a funding organization is that we're getting very good value here, partly because of the volunteerism aspect of not just your board, which is appreciated hugely, but also of how you're able to leverage volunteerism in the community. That I had some concerns at our last meeting around geographical pieces I just mentioned, and some of the process pieces too, and that will come out of my question, I guess. But I wasn't able to attend the January annual update. My alternate did and filled me in. But I think it's important that as funding organizations really moving forward center themselves on the processes that have been agreed upon to find out, and a midterm or mid-year report is useful, but it can also has a potential to it needs to be distributed in a way that perhaps maybe is more thoughtful or more communicative than this particular one has gone out. Because I know it's taxing on as an organization going to an extra meeting here, an extra meeting there, and that's so if that needs shifting, then maybe it's the framework that needs shifting a little bit. I think of the housing and employees and the return on investment that Director Wynn was getting towards. It's very hard to measure it, but we hear so many organizations that, including this one, but there were conversations all over the coast about the difficulty in attracting employees and how are we going to measure that measure that in a numerical way. There are challenges certainly with that, and data collection is part of it. There are also social pieces and demographic pieces here, of course, right? And I thought the housing, I was shocked when YouTube came up, and there was a locally relevant piece of information on an ad in YouTube. I don't think I've ever seen that before, and to have it as a socially relevant and economically relevant piece was something that I can't imagine that all 4 governments could get together to do. And is also identified in an affordable housing seminar that here's a list of 4 things that local governments can do, right? And spreading the word was one of them. So I thought that was an effective approach, and we'll see. Hopefully, it will bear some fruit. So my question is for you: what, and you can approach this however you like, but what are some of the challenges that you faced in dealing with 4 funding organizations? And is there a quick win here in terms of it may not be something you want to answer here? It may be something you can build into a future annual report or that sort of thing. But I know there's been challenges. And clearly these organizations there's oversight of public funds, right? And the balance of maintaining an arm's length relationship is a big part of things. But is there a quick win here in that department?
Thank you, and pleased to the delegation. It's been half an hour. We usually keep delegations
I'll be
to
quick.
10
I'll be
minutes.
quick, but
We generally try and let the delegates speak more than the board. So.
Okay. Well,
Go ahead.
this is actually going to be a bit of a twofer. So, for the most part, it hasn't been a problem. I haven't experienced that many problems working with 4 different funders. Or I should say, not many problems that I don't think are going to go away with trust as years go by and more water goes under the bridge and more successes are out the door. I think that those things will get better. On the working side of what we do, and this goes back to your initial question, Director Wynn, or Chair, is we've sent out communications to all of our funders' planning departments to meet with their planners to talk about, to form those relationships and learn about how we can work with those industrial lands and other development issues. So far we've managed to get in our meetings with the District of Sechelt and the Town of Gibsons, and we hope to meet with SCRD planners soon. And Sechelt Nation, so that we'll be able to talk specifically about what's going on at Hillside and how we can be involved. Where is appropriate for us to be involved, and how can we be involved? So I think that's the challenge is learning as you. I've heard discussed at this board before. Teaching people how to work with you can be difficult, and we're doing it with 4. So that's the challenge.
And something to remember too, when it's from a total volunteer group, it is impossible for us to come to 4 sets of council meetings on a regular basis, even twice a year. Right? It just takes time. When you've got 10 weeks of volunteer hours to put through in a week, you tie all that up in 1 week with getting ready to come to a board, and then you have to do it 4 times, and then you have to do it multiple times a year. You lose your volunteer hours quickly that way. And so the more that you can do across the governments to come together, all 4 of you at the same time, is really important to hearing regional information like that. Not only so that it's easier for us to only have to talk to you once in one setting, but also because you hear what each other are saying and asking, so that we're not getting one set of priorities from this table and one set of priorities from this table and a whole different viewpoint over here. It's important that you guys hear from each other so that you're all on the same page.
That was diplomatic. Well said. Okay, thank you. And are there other, from those who haven't spoken, would like to question while they're here? Because it is, we're grateful that you do come, and we know you've been visiting other governments, and we'll try and build that out over the next while too, so these quarterly reports, as you did in January, in places we can convene at one place. I was really impressed with your notion of trying to get the planning projects out sort of in visibility. We're doing that now at the District of Sechelt, but only while it's within our purview. Getting it to market the next stage would be interesting, because people are very uninformed and confused about when a project is announced by a developer and when it's at market. And so we started doing it at the District of Sechelt just to show that we, in fact, were approving almost everything in front of us on a timely manner. Doesn't mean they're being built. We have almost 15 years worth of built, ready, zoned land in Sechelt, because the government actually does do this fairly quickly. Builders take a different time and listen to different markets. So, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming this extra trip. And actually, the board was gentle compared to when you weren't here. So it always is good to come, because then they can listen more carefully. Appreciate it very much. And everyone's impressed with the Google Ads. I was talking to Dave about it earlier. It's just going to reports. We have first item 4, Corporate Administrative Services Committee report, and the recommendations 1 to 4 and 6 to 15. Motion to receive the committee report. Thank you. Seconded. All those in favor? And if we can look at the motions 1 to 4 and 6 to 15, are there any of those that anyone wants to pull out for specific attention? If not, I'd look for a motion. Thank you, Director Knorr and Director Wynne. So voting on recommendations 1 to 4 and 6 to 15 of September 27th. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. We now have our amended agenda, which was a late item. Item 4A, which adds a Planning and Community Development Committee. 2 recommendations from this morning, recommendation number 5 and recommendation number 11. Recommendation number 5 is on a provincial referral for private moorage, Bear Cabin Retreat, and 11 is the Mount Elphinstone Land Use Planning. Motion to receive and adopt both recommendations. Councillor Director Morrow, Director Wynne, all those in favor? Any discussion? Sorry, I realize there was probably an enthusiastic motion moving of recommendation number 11, but I missed that, so others have moved it. But it's in front and gone. All those in favor, just to check? That's carried. Thank you. Bylaws, item 5 on the agenda, and Annex C, pages 18 to 20. This is for adoption. A bylaw to amend, it's bylaw number 636.4, a bylaw to amend Sunshine Coast Regional District Director's remuneration, bylaw number 636/2011, and adoption is moved by Councillor Director Knorr and Director Wynne. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm thinking of councils and not of boards and directors. It's 3 times in a row. Item 6, Sunshine Coast Regional District Zoning Amendment, bylaw number 310-183, electoral areas, and it's for third reading first. Third reading is moved by Director, thank you, and seconded by Director Wynne. That was Lewis to Wynne. All those in favor of third reading? That's carried. And adoption is moved and seconded. Thank you, Director LaBelle and Director Lewis. All those in favor? And that's carried. Item 7, Annex E, Sunshine Coast Regional District Bylaw number 337.11 7, and this is again electoral areas. Third reading is brought forward by Director Morrow and seconded by Director Wynn. All those in favor? That's carried. Electoral directors only. And adoption is moved again by Director Morrow and seconded by Wynn. All those in favor? Thank you. Item 8, broader participation. Planning and Development Procedures and Fees Amendment Bylaw, which is before us for first, second, third reading and adoption. I'll look for first reading. Thank you, Director Lewis. Seconded. Thank you. This is for a bylaw to amend Planning and Development Procedures and Fees Bylaw number 522/2003. All those in favor of first reading? That's carried. Second reading is moved. Thank you. And again, it's seconded by Director Wright. Any discussion on second reading? All those in favor? And third reading is moved. Thank you, Director Lewis, Director Wynn. All those in favor of third reading? That's carried. And adoption is moved. Thank you, Director LaBelle, Director Morrow. All those in favor of adoption? Any opposed? That's carried. We're at Director's reports. Can I start with Director Lewis from Elphinstone? Director's report.
I have little to report, so I will just pass.
Thank you very much. And Director Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick things. The most important thing was at the council meeting, we looked at a planning and development procedural bylaw, which is aimed at streamlining for people coming in doing developments in the district and putting that information in writing for them and showing them and the process that they will go through and trying to simplify that for them. We had a couple of, we had a zoning amendment for a microbrewery, and there was also a road closure for third reading, and that's to accommodate the 40 units of affordable housing that are going to be put up by BC Housing. Having said that, the rest of my time has been with candidates meetings, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Morrow.
So I've spent absolutely no time on candidates meetings, but I'm looking forward to listening to some candidates. Just want to, I'll only report on attending the signing or the celebration of the Sechelt signing the foundation agreement with the province. I think it's a very large, momentous step forward. I certainly hold up my hands to the Sechelt Nation for getting this accomplished. It's absolutely overdue, and I'm sure that moving forward in reconciliation, this is a big step, and I'm sure that I won't speak for the entire coast. I certainly speak for myself and the people that I represent in congratulating the Sechelt in such a momentous achievement. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much for that report. Director Wynn?
Thank you, Chairman. And I have been attending a few of the all candidates meetings, mainly because I want to see and hear from the people that are going to be sitting in these chairs in the very near future, and hear their views and opinions on things. And one of the things that I hear is the word collaboration, intergovernmental collaboration over and over again, and I wish I had a quarter for every time I've heard that word, because I have a very full collaboration pot full of quarters at this point. So it's definitely a key issue for many of the candidates, which is good. I attended the Sechelt Nation event, and congratulations to the Sechelt Nation for moving forward with that agreement. I also attended an event a couple of weeks ago called the Howe Sound Sustainable Development Forum, and It was hosted by BC Council for International Cooperation and the Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative. And the Sustainable Development Goals come from a agreement of 193 member states of the United Nations, and there's 17 goals that were identified in 2015. And I won't go through all of them, but I've picked out a couple that really pertain to the Sunshine Coast here. And goal number 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation. Goal 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusiveness and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. So there's 17 goals, but the exercise that we went through, and there was a representation from all over Howe Sound, and some new candidates were there from many of the local governments. So it was their first kind of opportunity to engage in a larger forum like that and talk about specifics on goals. The takeaways that I had from it were, again, speaking of that broader collaboration, and we heard from the Squamish Nation, we heard from Destination BC, we heard from the Islands Trust people, and we also went through an exercise that we all kind of gathered around different boards, and we put our tags on what we think we're working on today. And it was really quite enlightening to see that so many local governments are working on the same thing, but you don't really know it. And the collaborative effort that could go into that is quite significant. And so we heard from those other groups, as I mentioned, and they have strategic plans. And one of the things that will come forward to this new board very quickly is development of your own strategic plan. And we got into table discussions, and the value that could be seen in sharing strategic plans was really evident. The fact that the Squamish Nation and Destination BC, they identified huge increases in tourism on the coast here. Those strategic plans, how they could align with the strategic plan of the SCRD is quite significant. So I'd like to leave that with the CAO and staff is to consider how to garner that information and from other strategic plans and find that the commonality in those sustainable development goals that can serve the broader community even better. And so it was a very worthwhile event that I went to, and there were some people that are sitting out there that attended, some people around this table that attended, and I would look forward to seeing how that might be able to develop in the strategic plan for the next board. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Director Knorr?
I'm going to keep it simple. Good discussion on collaboration. I wasn't aware how many jobs at home I'd put off in the last few dozen years. I serve due to collaboration. I'm going to really find out over the next couple of weeks. So that's all I got to say. I'll have myself a full-time slate getting caught up after the last board meeting.
Maybe some of the people who have been collaborating with you for 7 or 8 years will come over to the house and help you with those tasks, 'cause I'm sure there's a long list. Director LaBelle.
Thank you, Chair Milne. Last week I attended a Sunshine Coast Credit Union event that happened. I'm not sure how regularly they happen, but it's a big picture. They have an in-house economist who comes and does a big picture Sunshine Coast State of the Union assessment and some forecasting. And some of the longitudinal pieces that were discussed in this room a little while ago play out in that reporting. There's that information is available online. So if you're looking for a snapshot, then check the Sunshine Coast Credit Union website. Sounds like a bit of an ad, but it's not. So no major changes in my view. I remember attending it 4 years ago and maybe 2 years ago, and the patterns that we're aware of are there. But it's worth looking at. I had the pleasure of attending the Foundation Agreement celebration, and worked through the 99 pages of what is a really exciting document. I can't congratulate the nation and the province enough on the culmination of what has been years and years and years and years of work at the governance end and the staff end. An exciting new chapter, I think, moving forward, and it's a document that is going to be obviously foundational to land use pieces moving forward. So it's a really great read and so much in there. So yeah, certainly lots to be congratulated there. OCP committee met the other day, and they spent a fair amount of time on Bylaw 310 review, and also had most of the candidates for Roberts Creek introduce themselves briefly at that meeting. Have an all-candidates meeting tonight at the Hall in Roberts Creek, put on by the Roberts Creek Community Association, facilitated by former SCRD Director Brett McGilvery. So watch out, directors, just when you think you're going to be called back for things like this. Not only do I have an eye to the 2018 local government elections, I'm thinking 2038 perhaps. Grooming candidates. We had in two different groups, about 16 homeschooled students and their families through this room, and I thank staff for accommodating that. They looked at 15 different services the regional district provides and organized them into a strategic plan, and you'll be glad to know they've funded that plan through a budgeting process using 100 milk lids. So if we're willing to run this organization on milk lids, we're in good shape. They did have to go to their taxpayer parents to ask to cover things like hydro increases and one or two special projects. But that was refreshing for me, and I look forward to a little bit more time with folks of that generation in down the road.
Thank you very much for that report and for your work for the future. Director Valeria.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a big speech prepared, and then I found out this is not our last board meeting, so I'll save it. I do have to run to a ferry, so apologies to Director Julius if I have to leave in the middle of his. I'm always interested to hear everything people have to say. I'm going to the Real Estate Foundation event in Vancouver. The town of Gibsons is accepting a land award from the foundation on behalf of the Municipal Natural Assets Initiative, so I need to be there. Two quick things. I was sorry to miss the foundation agreement signing, but fully supportive and congratulatory. And thanks to Director Wynn for a very good summary of the Sustainable Development Goals. And I just note the number of Squamish Nation councillors and attendees that were there, especially given that they're not in an election cycle. So that was good to see. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Julius.
Thank you, Chair Mylan. Don't have a report, but more of I think acknowledgements and thank yous are needed. I thought to myself, when it comes to thanking the different groups that are out there, I thought I would thank those that are most important to me first, and that is the Sunshine Coast Regional District. I want to thank them for all the acknowledgement that they have given to the Sechelt Nation for the signing. I'd also like to thank my other partners here within our sway, the town of Gibsons, for their acknowledgement, all the area directors, for their acknowledgement, the district of Sechelt, for their acknowledgement. And, now that I've got the important people out of the way, now I can thank the federal government and the provincial governments for, all the support and the things that they have done for us. For me, it's something. It sounds like a really important thing and an exciting thing that is happening, and I am still learning about it. So I may not be excited as most, but once I get fully knowledge about what it's all about, then I'll be as excited as you all. And so again, thank you all for all your acknowledgments to our accomplishments.
Thank you for that report. I was honored to be called as a witness at the ceremony last Saturday, and in a sense that means I should bring back as much as I know and could recall and remember, but I won't keep you all day. I will say that it started with a great lunch to welcome the guests from across BC, and it was positive and warming to see the number of First Nations who had traveled some distance to celebrate with Seashelf on that. I thought that was a remarkable sign of their respect for the work you've been doing over the many years. And in the Longhouse itself, the minister and the chief's speeches were short but to the point, and clearly showed a warm and developing relationship. Minister Fraser in particular seemed to be emotionally engaged in that event and the ceremony, and being very glad for being there. Scott and I go back to 1996. We were both elected mayors that year for the first time. He was defeated shortly thereafter and became a minister. So maybe that was the track. I don't know. It was, again, at the ceremony itself, the gifts from the other First Nations, I think, were more important than the speeches. And the broad cross-section of the community that was there on invitation was also important for me to see and revealing. So all in all, quite a ceremony. Like Director Julius, I'm still learning about the entire reconciliation agreement and what it will mean, and I think it will be developing over time. It's going to become richer and deeper. And personally, having been both a witness and an observer and a participant since 1996 on some of the various times we thought we were close, I thought we were there, and I'm glad when I see the reconciliation agreement that we went off track in 1999 and said no to the AIP because it was the wrong track. And at the time, there was lots of different thinking about it and what was going on, but clearly the community knew that was the wrong track and said, no, we're not going there. And it's 2018 now, but you have what's a genuinely shared, not just postage stamps and a little bit of delegated authority, but you actually have some real common shared decision-making on your territory, which is a long time coming. So for that, I have a couple of boxes downstairs that one half of our household keeps threatening to throw out, and I keep saying, no, I need that to write up the story, because it's a long story and it is a very, very good one. And that would conclude my report. New business, I see none. In camera, there's none, so I look for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, and seconded. All those in favor?